Hello everyone, welcome to my channel LearnIT. Today I am going to start on scripting part of ServiceNow as this will be useful for performing any kind of automation or validation. I will give you an overview how we can script in ServiceNow. We can use scripts to extend our instance beyond standard configurations. With scripts, we can automate process, add functionality, integrate our instance with an outside application, and more. ServiceNow generally uses JavaScript as their scripting language. So let's move further and see what is scripting. So what is ServiceNow scripting? So ServiceNow scripting allows complex configurations and behaviors via JavaScript. As you can see, the script screenshot is visible here. So however, when making changes to our instance, we can use condition builder wherever possible to straightforward configure conditions and actions. Suppose when to run state is closed or cancelled, we can set active as false. Okay, so this is the condition builder feature. This is used when we doesn't use scripting as part of our configuration change. So let's move further. Why we should not use script? ServiceNow is continually evolving. What you scripted in the past might not be scripted now. It is easier to debug and fix configuration changes after upgrade. Make sure a script is really needed. How business critical is the requirement? Will an access control perform what you need instead? Can you achieve at least 80% of your requirements via configuration changes instead of scripting? Consider ways of customizing without scripting. This is really very necessary in ServiceNow to increase your performance when we are working on any project. So let's move further and see when we can use our script. When we are adding new functionality, existing functionality we are extending, guide users through messaging, automate process, interact with third-party applications. So these are the various places where we can use script to add the functionalities. So let's move further and see where our script execute. So it execute at client side where auto population a field based on value of another field happens or show or hide form sections. Server side modify a database record, trigger a flow or workflow on a mid server, integrate to a third party application. As you can see, there are client script, UI policy, catalog scripting is defined in separate color, and these are defined in separate color. Business rules, glide system, glide record, script includes flow designer. This is because why these three execute on client side and these are all executing on server side. Okay, as you can see, client side will run on browser, server side will run on database, mid server is also is running on database side. Okay, so let's move further and see how we can script in ServiceNow. So syntax editor is provided in ServiceNow, that is built-in text editor. As you can see here, we can see the feature how we can script it, like we can automatic JavaScript syntax coloring, auto indentation, line numbers, and creation of closing braces and quotes. As you can see, line number and coloring is done on scripting part. Okay, context sensitive help, code editing functions, editor macros for typing commonly used code, syntax error checking is there. Okay, so this is the editor where we write our script in ServiceNow. Okay, so let's move further and see how syntax coloring happens as part of our code. As you can see, the color coding is applied to the script for reading purpose. Suppose green is available for comments, purple is for reserved words, blue is for function or variable names or strings, bold plus italics is it means context menu item like sys user gr member. So this is bold plus italics. So we can see how this context menu item also shows as part why it happens this way, and these are coloring shows very visualized form of a script where we can see our script very properly. As you can see here, proper coding is done here, and proper commenting has been added, like create a member group, close, and these all things are mentioned as part of these functions. So let's move further and see syntax editor for braces and quotes. As you can see, if closing parentheses, braces and quotes automatically inserted as you type. Okay, so as you type, this whole section is created by default. Okay, closing parentheses. And same way, the matching character is highlighted when the cursor is beside a parenthesis, brace or quote. Like in other editor where we code in Java, there also this feature is available for braces and quotes. Same way it happens like we used to do in another editor like Eclipse or NetBeans. So it is same way we can do the scripting. So syntax editor context sensitive. So it will display a valid elements at cursor's current position. List method for a class. List expected parameters. As you can see, we start typing like g underscore. You will get multiple options like what to use. G underscore form, G underscore list, G underscore navigation, G underscore user, get message, SP util glide ajax, glide dialog window, glide record. So we are getting these kind of functions at the beginning of line. We can use control plus space bar at the beginning of a line, so you can get some suggestions like what to use and where to start our script. So it will list method for a class also. Suppose we are typing gform dot, so you will get what type of methods we can use for that particular class. Suppose add info message, add error message, add decoration. Okay, so these kind of stuff we can utilize by using gform dot. You will find different methods for that particular class. So open parenthesis after a valid class name. So suppose we have selected a valid method for a class, then automatic this parenthesis will be generated, because we have to define for which field name we have to make it as a decorated, or we can add as message for this, and these parameters will be displayed this way so that we can use it very frequently, like what parameters we have to pass. This will be clearly notified to our user while we are writing a script. Okay, so let's move further and see there are more context sensitive things like properties assigned to a locally declared object are also included in the list of suggestions. As you can see, my object is created as part of some array is generated inside this my object function, and you can see this object functions suggestions is displayed here. So my object dot my string, my array, my integer, it is displayed here. So this way also we can use our declared object which is declared locally. Okay, so let's move further and see context menu. Previously I showed you there is a new glide records is user underscore gr member. So there is three options where we can see the definition of this particular table. We can show how much data is present on this table, and as well as we can find the reference, so like what all script is added as part of this table. So we can find all the active files with the reference with the token API or table. Okay, so it is mentioned like context menu allows user to navigate to script include definition, glide API documentation and system and custom table definitions and data. So next slide I will show you how this works when clicking on find reference. As you can see, this is referencing to multiple script like about changes on group, assignment group utils, cab meeting snc. So these are all script include business rule which is referenced to this particular table. And as well as we can click here and open our file, like what script is written on back end of this particular script. So we can preview our script as well. So this is really very interesting when we are doing any script in ServiceNow, so that it eases developers life in working on any project as part of customization or validation things. Okay, so let's move further and see what are all the editing functions in syntax editor toolbar. So syntax editor toolbar provides standard JavaScript code editing functions suppose we can toggle the syntax editor on and off, comment uncomment selected code, code formatting, replace all functionality, search functionality, find next, find previous, display full screen editing mode, keyboard shortcut help screen, save, syntax error checking, script debugger. So we have all these standard editing functions for particular script in ServiceNow. So this will be really helpful for us to write a script on any table. And as well as we can see there is a icon to see keyboard shortcut, how we can use this as part of shortcut. Okay, so let's move further and see how we can enable or disable this syntax editor for the users while developing. So the syntax editor can be disabled by the users preferring to develop in a basic text field. When disabled, a go to line button appears in the toolbar. So we can see this is the current syntax editor which is enabled already, and here we can see the syntax editor is disabled, so this line number is disabled and editor functionalities has been disabled. Okay, so this generally people doesn't use because this will not show proper highlighting of error whether you have committed any error. We can see properly on our syntax editor when it is enabled, because it instantly verifies whether we have written a correct line of code or not. Okay, so by enabling syntax editor only we should do generally script. Okay, so let's move further and see how we can comment or uncomment our code inside a syntax editor. So we can select the code to be made inactive. Suppose this code is selected, and we can just select toggle comment here. So this is the toggle comments button where we can click, and as soon as we click on this button, so these two lines are commented. Okay, the result is like color is changed, like when commenting the color of that particular code of lines becomes different. Okay, so you can see purple color, blue color, and this green color is highlighted. So these are all the way of writing a script or commenting any line or uncomment any line in ServiceNow. Okay, so let's move further and see how we can format our code inside ServiceNow. So suppose this is the script which is written, but it is not in a proper format. So how we can do it in a proper format? So there is a button here. So this is a format code button where your script will be formatted. As you can see, this script is changed to this. So this is really looking good now as compared to this one. Okay, so we should generally use our format code button frequently on our lines of code. If suppose we have written more than 10 or 20 lines of code, so definitely it is required to do our code in a format way, because it will be in a readable mode for any person who would be approaching this script. Okay, so let's move further and see what replace all does is like replace a string with another string. Replace means replace all doesn't ask for confirmation, it will replace all the text. Okay, suppose we are finding any text with the g underscore form, and we are finding and replacing it with another tag. So this way we can replace our tags instead of any other tag. So this is the way we can do to replace all features in ServiceNow. Syntax editor search functionality. We can search for any script inside this particular scripting section, like we can search for string g underscore form or regular expressions. Like here I have searched for g underscore form, so it is highlighted in yellow. So if we have clicked on g underscore form, and we can see this is fine. This we have found 1 2 3 4 5 places we have found g underscore form, right? So this way we can search our any text inside this particular script. Okay, so let's see full screen editing. So if suppose we have lesser script to write, then it is fine. If suppose we have more than 30-40 lines of code, then we can make our editor in a full screen mode. As you can see, this is the hidden when scripting in full screen mode. We can click on this button and toggle to full screen view. Okay, so you can see the view this way. 33 lines is currently showing, but it depends on your screen how big screen is yours. Okay, here you will be visible like more, around 10 lines of code, but here you can see more than 30-40 lines of code you can see here. So this way we can edit our code in a full screen view. Okay, so let's move further and see what is syntax error checking. So syntax is automatically checked as you type. Red circles and red underlines, they indicate errors. Orange circles and yellow underlines indicate warnings. Okay, so we can see there is a error here, parsing error of our script, and here also we can see there is a error. So we can hover over the error and we can see the error or warnings for more details. So error message appears below the field when a save is attempted on a server side script with errors. So you can see could not save a record because of a compiler error, JavaScript error at line 6. So this is error at line 6. So you have to fix, then we can save this record for this scripting. Okay, so this is a syntax error checking which happens in ServiceNow syntax editor. Okay, so let's move further and see what are all JavaScript APIs in ServiceNow used as part of ServiceNow JavaScript. So we can provide JavaScript classes and methods that can be used in script to define the functionality of the platform. So these are all client side classes, server side classes. We can see a glide ajax, glide form, glide list, glide record, glide user, SP model. And in server side class, we can see glide aggregate, glide datetime, glide element, glide record, glide query, glide system, JSON, workflow, and many more. Okay, I will let you know as soon as we move further on our sessions what are all client side or server side classes and how we can use them in our scripts. Okay, so let's move further. JavaScript in ServiceNow API documentation. API section of ServiceNow developer site is the place to go for official API documentation, as you can redirect from server scoped support for a scoped application. These APIs may behave differently in global scope. Server global support for legacy application in the global scope. So here we can redirect and see how we can code our script in scoped or global side or client side or REST APIs are visible. Okay, and as well as we can see how we can properly do our scripts on various sites in ServiceNow. So JavaScript mode. So to support existing script and new script developed to a ECMA script 5 standard, the JavaScript engine has two modes, compatibility mode and ECMAScript 5 standards mode. As you can see, it is set in the application record. JavaScript mode is set, ESS standard mode, ES5, sorry, compatibility mode. Okay, so compatibility mode generally allows you to write a JavaScript code more frequently with less errors. But ECMAScript 5 standards allow to use a certain JavaScript functions which is provided by using JavaScript. Okay, and ES5 standards is generally very good for us to use in ServiceNow. Okay, so scripting resource, we can get help from resources like Now Community, ServiceNow user groups, product documentation, developer documentation, Now Learning. And JavaScript resources we can find on w3schools.com, codecademy.com, codeschool.com, developer.mozilla.org, and JavaScript. And we can find JavaScript through different sources as well. So it depends how you want to learn JavaScript as part of ServiceNow scripting. Just you want to learn JavaScript as a basic to start scripting on ServiceNow. Okay, so what is a client script? It is a type of JavaScript code that runs on web browser. So what generally client script manage in terms of behavior, informs fields and list in real time, make fields mandatory, set one field in response to another, modify choice list options, hide show form sections, hide fields, display an alert, manage prohibit list editing, client script execute on client side only, that is on web browser. Browser may present items in different ways. Now let's move further and see how client script executes. So here we can see like there is a trigger which specifies when this client script will be executed. Okay. So you can see here we have selected a table as incident and type as on submit, and this is a scripting section where we can write a script to execute based on form selections or validations. Okay, so now let's move further and see what is client script trigger. So client script trigger, in previous slide I have shown you there is a type on submit. As you can see, we can trigger client script in many ways like on load, on change. Okay, and we can display view also as well, view also in client script, which is very helpful when you want to add multiple client script on different views. Okay, so let's move further and see what is client script trigger order. So we are using our order field when multiple client script is written on same table and have conflicting logic. It will execute in order from lowest to highest. Okay. It will not appear on the client script form baseline. We have to configure the form to add the field. Okay, you can see the order field which is not available out of the box, so we have to configure it from form layout or form design, and we can add our order field. Okay, so let's move further and see what are the types of client script which is used in ServiceNow. So there are generally four types of client script which is used in ServiceNow. First is onload client script, second is on change client script, third is on submit client script, fourth on cell edit client script. So I will tell you about these types of client script one by one. Okay. So now let's see about client script type onload. So when onload client script execute, script runs when a form loads and before control is given to the user. Okay, typically used to manipulate a form's appearance and content on the screen. Okay, as you can see in below screenshot, we can see the user selects a record to view and form loads and populated with record data. At this point of time, our client script will execute when the form is loading. Okay, onload client script immediately execute and control is given to the user. First onload client script will be executed and then control is given back to the user. Okay, now I will show you how onload trigger happens. You can see we have to select onload in type field of configuration form in client script. As soon as we select onload type, the onload function template is automatically inserted into the script with no argument passed. Okay, let's move further and see what is on submit client script. Okay, so when our form is saved, updated, or submitted, at that point of time, our on submit client script will be executed. It will be typically used for field validation. When a user saves, submits, or updates a record, the onSubmit client script is executed, as you can see in our screenshot. Okay, and record is written to the database. Okay, so you can see how script can prevent writing to the database and return control to the user. Onload client script run again when a control is returned to the and then control is returned to the user. Okay, now let's see what happens when we select type on submit on our configuration form. So as soon as we click on submit type, we can see on submit function template is automatically inserted into the script with no argument passed to it. Okay, you can see here, and we can write our script whatever we have to write on submit. We can suppose an example is there. We have provided a alert for this client script when a record is submitted. Okay, So let's move further and see what is onChange client script. So script runs when a particular field value changes. It is typically used to respond to field values of interest, modify one field in response to another. As you can see in a screenshot, when a user modifies a field value, onChange client script is executed and then control is given to the user. Okay. So what happens when we select type as onChange? We can see we can select a type onChange and then we have to select the field for which field value change we have to execute our client script. Okay, as soon as we select our onChange type, you have to select our field name. Okay, and then onChange function template is automatically inserted into the script with 5 arguments passed to it. Okay, you can see there is a argument passed to it, are control, old value, new value, is loading, is template. Okay, so control checks what control the user is having, and based on user control we can find the values or select the values, and we can access old value of current field which is selected here and new value of this field which is selected. And then is loading functionality, when the form is loading you can execute onChange client script in onload as well. And is template defines whether current form is holding any template or not. Okay, based on that we are executing this onChange client script. Okay, so we can see here all field values change when a form loads. The onChange template if a statement aborts script execution if field values change due to a form load. Okay, the new value has no value. Okay, so at that point of time this particular codes is used which is highlighted here. Okay, script example displays argument passed to onChange function. Okay, so you can see another type of client script, that is onSaladit. You can see onSaladit means when a form or table is loaded into a list view. Okay, we can see multiple columns displayed here, and we can configure those way which column to be selected to execute onSaladit client script. Okay, so let's move further and see how client script on SaladIt is executed or configured in the system. As you can see, we can select a type as on SaladIt, and we have to select the field as well on which we have to check the changes on SaladIt. As soon as type SaladIt is added, there are 5 arguments passed to the function which is created automatically on selection of type. Okay, you can see sysID, table, new value, callback, old values inside on SaladIt scripting section. Okay, and we can execute those scripting section whatever we want to execute on SaladIt. Okay, so let's move further and see what data can we see in a client script. Okay, use ServiceNow predefined client-side classes and methods to control how the platform looks and behaves in a web browser. Enhance the end-user experience. This class reviews the most popular client-side APIs: G underscore form, G underscore user, G underscore scratchpad, which is used with the display business rule, which I will show you when our server side demo will be completed. I will show you how we can execute G underscore scratchpad with the help of business rule. Okay, so let's move further and see how G underscore form object in a client script helps us to execute our validations. Okay, the glide form API provides useful methods to customize forms, manage form fields and their data. As you can see, there is an info message and error message displayed using G underscore form API. Okay, so let's move further and see what is G underscore form methods in a client script. You can see we can access glide form methods using G underscore form global object. G underscore form dot method name and parameter information. This is the syntax how we can use our G underscore form global object. Okay. For example, you can see gform dot set value impact to 1. Gform dot show field message state changes waiting approval info. Okay, commonly used G underscore form method examples are flash, which will draw an attention to an area on the form, show field message, get field information, get value, change a field value, set value or clear value, change a choice list. Add option, clear options can be used in G underscore form global object. Get form information like get sections, is new record, add clear form messages, add form message, clear all form messages. Okay, so referencing field names. So this is one of the important scenario also, which is generally used while using client script. G underscore form object method refers to fields by their field name, not their label. Easy way to locate a field name, right click on a field label. Field name appears on the context menu as we have clicked on right click of caller, and we can see the caller underscore ID is the field name which will be used in client script to execute further validations as part of client script. Okay. So gform.getValue. Gform.getValue is a very commonly used G underscore form method which will retrieve a field value from the form, not the database. Pay attention to the field's data type when using this method, like where incident priority equal to gform.getValue priority. Okay, so we have to be very vigilant on that, how we can use our data type when using the method. Okay, so let's move further and see how we can get value from the text field. Gform.getValueNumber, it will return a string how it appears on the field. The number field is a string field, you can see here, and we have done a alert on this particular number field which is a string, and as it is a string has returned as part of alert. Okay, now let's move and see how it happens in gform.getValue in terms of choice list. Okay, what is the tag for this? Gform.getValue, and we are taking an example of impact field, so we have added a impact, and this will return the value of selection, not the user friendly label. The impact field is a choice list, so whatever value on backend of this urgency is set for high, that will be returning as 1. You can see the urgency is 1 high, but it is returning the value as 1. Okay, so now we are getting a value using a reference field. So this is one of the thing which is most commonly used in client script. So the tag is gform.getValue caller underscore id. So caller underscore id, what type of field it is? It is a reference field. So what it will return? It will return the sysid of this particular field. Okay, so this is how we are getting the value using reference field as well. Okay, so this is all about client script. So I will be covering today types of client script and one example for each of the type of client script. Okay, and as well as I would be covering some of the object and methods that can be used in our client script. So let's move to our ServiceNow instance and see how we can use our client script in ServiceNow instance. So let's move further and see how we can use it. As you can see, our ServiceNow instance is loaded. So let's move further and see how we can create client script and how we can use it. So let's search here client script. We can see we have options for catalog client script and client script. So let's talk about client script first, and on later session I will tell you about catalog client script. So this is our client script which is visible under system definition. So we can click here and we can see we are having lot of client script which are present out of the box in the system for all the tables in the system. As you can see, there are more than thousands of client script which is already existing in the system for out of the box. Okay, so we can click a new button here and we can create our client script. Okay, and another way is like we can redirect to our table and we can do the configuration changes for that particular table under client script. Okay, so let me click on new button here and see how our client script form looks, and I will explain you each of the configuration field in client script form. Okay, so let it load first and see how our client script configuration form looks. As you can see now, our form is loaded for client script configuration. You can see there is a name field where we can define the name of the client script, and here is the table where we can select the table like incident. If we have to apply some client script on incident table, so we can select our table as incident. And UI type, we can see there are desktop, mobile and service portal and all. So UI type will provide a target user interface to which client script applies. Okay, so we can use that way on various UI. Okay, so there are type field where we can select on salary, on change, on load, on submit. So these are the type of client script which will be created in the system. Okay, so let's move further and see what is this application. So application is selected as global whenever any client script is written as part of global tables. Okay, and we have active checkbox like whenever this client script has to be used, this checkbox has to be true, then only this client script will be executed. Okay, inherited, it will indicate whether client script applies to extended tables as well. Okay, so we are having a global check mark here. So global is like if it is true, client script runs on all views of the table. Okay, so we have description field where we can define how client script execute and what client script does. Okay, and messages we have like we can provide a text string which will be available to the client script as localized message using get message. Okay, suppose we have to get any message under client under scripting section, so we can define our message under message section. Okay, so scripting generally contains the script which will be executed on uh, this client script on some conditions or any type of client script. Okay, so isolate script, some explanation is written here. New client script are running in strict mode with direct DOM access disabled. Access to jQuery prototype and the window object are likewise disabled. To disable this on a per script basis, configure this form and add the isolate script field. To disable this feature for all new globally scoped client scripts, set the system property glide.script.block client.globals to false. Okay, so let's move further and see how we can create our client script. So I will give you an example one by one for all types of client script. Okay, so let me just give a name, test client script, and I will explain you one by one each type of client script, how we can use it and how we will be using it for incident table. Okay, so let me select here incident. So I have selected my incident table and I will select UI type as all, and I will be telling you about onload client script initially. Okay, so what is onload client script? You can see as soon as I have clicked on onload, there is a function which is preloaded for onload client script. Under this function only, this scripting section will be able to identify whether it is a onload client script or any other type of client script. Okay, and we can start our scripting here. Okay, so it will be running when the form is first loaded and before user can enter any data. So typically onload client script perform client side manipulation of current form or set default record values. Okay, it's like that. If on load of a form we can set the values, or we can provide some pop-up on load of a form. Okay, so I will show you an example how we can execute this client script. So let me save it and see how this client script will be executed on incident form. So let's go to the incident form and see how our client script will execute. So I will open a list of incident here, and I will open any incident. Suppose I am clicking on this incident. As you can see, this pop-up has started appearing because of our onload client script. So hi from onload client script. As soon as the form is loaded, our client script is executed. Okay, so let me click on OK, and you can see the form is completely loaded now. Our onload client script is also executed. Okay, suppose we have to set any value in the system on load of a form, we can do that as well. So suppose these are all default values, which is already some of the default values that are already populated, but this record is already created one. Okay, if suppose we have to set this short description or description, we have to change this short description, so we can do that. Okay, so let me show you how set value works here. So these are the glide form class which will be using for certain methods. Like glide form means like g underscore form dot. You can see there are multiple options when we are utilizing glide form class. So we can do error message, info message, and we can clear the message. We can do multiple things as part of glide form class. So what I am doing is like I will be doing set value, and we can do set mandatory, set read only, set visible, set value. Okay, so I will be using set value here. So this is the field name, and let me replace the text. Okay, let me save it and see how our script executes on incident form. So let me reload the form again. So first this alert will be showing up, and then as soon as we will click OK, so you can see the description is replaced by our text. Okay, so it is replaced by our text. Okay, so this is executed, and same way we can provide some message also. Suppose g underscore add info message. G form dot add error message. Okay, so what will happen, this message will be displaying, and now I will do alert and get value for state. Okay, so alert g underscore form dot get value state. Okay, so let me save it and see how our client script will be executed. Okay, so let me reload this form again and see there will be a lot of things that will be executed. We will see first alert is executed, and then we have a status value. I have done a alert for a state value, so we are getting a value 1 for this new status. And as soon as I will click on OK, our description will replace, and we have got a message. This is info message and this is error message, right? So this is really interesting. We can use it in multiple tables like incident, so it is executing this way. And there are multiple methods and classes under this g underscore form class we can use, like for setting mandatory or setting read only. So I can show you that also. So let me set one of the field mandatory also. Okay, so this is all about onload client script. So I will explain you about on change client script as well. Okay, so let's move further and see how we can create a on change client script. Okay, so let me go to a new type of client script. Suppose let me just do inactive this client script and create new client script here. So another type of client script I will be explaining you about will be about on submit. Okay, I will select my table as incident. Okay, I will select UI type all and type I will be selecting on submit. Okay, and on submit client script, what it is like, it will be running when a form is submitted. So typically on submit script validate things on the form and ensure that the submission makes sense. On submit client script can cancel form submission by returning a value of false. Okay, if suppose some inappropriate value is added on the form and we are trying to submit our client script, then it will provide a error, or we can just remove we can just return false so that it form will not be submitted. Okay, so let me show you example how on submit execute first. Okay, so just let me just execute alert on those on submit client script and show you how on submit client script executes. So let me save this record for client script and see how our, let me reload the form. Okay, so this is our form. Now how our client on submit client script will be executed is like, let me submit this record, let me enter some values. Suppose I have added a CAV approval assignment group, and then as soon as I will do save or update, our on submit client script will be executed. So as soon as I have clicked on save, our alert is starting pop up on submit client script. So if we click on OK, our form will be saved. You can see our form is saved, right? If suppose we want to return like false, we don't want to save the record on certain values, or if some wrong value is populated in the system. Okay, so if suppose we can check lot of things here. We can check the caller name, we can fetch the value and check whether the value is correctly added in the incident. Okay, so suppose what I will do is like let me take another example like I have shown you alert. I will show you how we can return false if some value is not correct. Okay, if like I will check if subcategory, if service is kept as empty. Okay, so business underscore service is the field name. So g underscore form dot get value business underscore service. Okay, g underscore form dot add error message. Okay, so let me save this type of client script and let me reload the form again, and let's try to submit this form again. As you can see, our service is empty and this error is started. It is not submitted. This form will not be submitted. You can see the error message is popping up. Okay, as soon as we will select all as service and we will try to save, this form will get saved because there is some value in service field. Okay, so we have checked the condition like whether this field service field is containing any values or not. So I have checked the null and throwing an error message and returning false. Okay, so this is mostly used for validation purpose whenever any form is submitted. Okay, so this is all about on submit type of client script. Okay, so let's move further and see how we can use on change client script. So let's start on another type of client script, that is on change. Okay, so let me click on client script again and try to create another client script for on change. So let me type the name for test client script for on change. Okay, so I will select my table here as incident. I have selected incident here and I will select UI type all and I will select on change. So now previous two type of client script we didn't get any parameters inside function on load, function on submit, but you can see function on change here. Okay, so function on change we are having different parameters like control, old value, new value, is loading, is template. Okay, so first I will tell you about on change client script and what are all these parameters inside on change function. Okay, so on change client script generally runs when a particular field value changes on the form. Okay, So on change, client script must specify various parameters like control, old value, new value, is loading, is template. Okay, so we can see here we have selected a type on change, and we have to define the field name as well, because we have to check on what field value changes we want to execute some change. Okay, so let me select assignment group. When any assignment group is changing, or yeah, so let it be assignment group. So as soon as assignment group is changed, we will execute this client script. Okay, all right, so we can I will tell you about what are all those parameters. So first parameter is control. So this is a DHTML widget whose value is changed. Okay, and control is not accessible in mobile and service portal. This will be working only on desktop view. Okay, so next is old value, the value the widget had when the record was loaded. Okay, and new value, the value when the widget has after the change, whenever any field value is changed, so that would be considered as new value. Is loading, is loading identifies whether the change occur as part of a form load or not. So we can use this on change client script as part of on load client script as well. Okay, so what is template one? Is template identifies whether the change occurs as part of template load. Okay, if we are utilizing any template on incident form, then this parameter will be executing. Okay, so we will type something and we will check whether our client script will execute correctly or not when assignment group changes. So let me add here. Okay, so let me try to save. So this is our script which is saved now, and let me try to reload the form again and change the assignment group and see whether our client script is executing or not. Okay, so I have selected a database, and we can see our pop-up is executed. As soon as I will click on OK, our assignment group will get changed. Okay, you can see that database set now. Okay, same way we can execute our different kind of code here, or we can set the value for any field. Suppose we are having channel, service offering, configuration item, any value we can set. We can set additional comments as well whenever any field value is changing. Okay, so we can do any type of activity here. Suppose we can do these all things in on change client script as well, like add info message, add error message, get value for state, set mandatory for category whenever assignment group is changed. Okay, so let me try to save this client script again, and let's check how our client script will get executed. So let me change the assignment group again and see how it executes. So you can see the pop-up is displaying, and we will display the state as well. So state is new, the value is 1. Okay, so we can see we have populated some info message and as well as error message here. Okay, and we can see the category is set mandatory. Okay, so we can do lot of things as part of on change client script as well. Okay, and we can do return false here as well, and any client script we can use return false. Okay, so this is all about on change client script and how it is executed, right? So we can proceed further and see how on cell edit client script executes. So let's move further and see another type of client script, that is on cell edit. So let me try to create. client script for cell edit. Test client script on cell edit. Okay, so let me select the table as incident again. And now let me select UI type all, and let me select on cell edit. Okay, so now we will see the difference. So function on cell edit is displayed here. Okay, and some parameters started displaying: sysids, table, old values, new value, callback. Okay, so I will tell you about on cell edit and what are all its parameters. Okay, so on cell edit will run on the list editor changes any cell value. Like I have selected a type on cell edit. Now what I will select is like I will select like on change of state. We have to do some alert. So I have selected a state field. On changing this particular state field from list of incidents, this client script will get executed. Okay, so we have to specify parameters like sysids, table, old values, new value, callback. So sysids, what sysids do is like an array of sysid will all be fetched using sysids, and using table, the table of the items being edited, old values, the old value of the cells being edited, new value, the new value for the cells being edited. Okay, so what is callback? A callback that continues the execution of any other related cell edit scripts. If true is passed as a parameter, the other scripts are executed or the change is committed if there are no more scripts. Okay, if false is passed as a parameter, any further scripts are not executed and change is not committed. Okay, so we have to keep in mind that on Saladit client script do not apply to dashboard list widgets. Okay, and this client script is very rarely used somewhere. Okay, so I will just provide you an example how it is executed. So let me add an alert for on Saladit client script and see what happens. Trying state changes for Saladit. Okay, so let me try to save this client script and see how our client script will get executed on change of state. So let us go to this list layout for incident table, and we can see there is a state field here. So let me click on this state field and try to change the value. So suppose I am trying to change value to in progress. So we are getting an alert like trying state changes for salary. Okay, so this is the way how on cell edit client script will get executed, and you can see the status changed now. Okay, so this is all about on cell edit client script. So I have explained you all types of client script. Okay, and as well as I have explained you about the gform class, like we call it as a glide form class, right? So what glide form class does is like we can retrieve a value like get value, set value, and we can do mandatory settings or make a field read only, write a message on the form like I have shown earlier, show error message, show info message, right? So we can do all kind of things using a glide form class and its methods. Okay, now there is another type of class that is like glide user, g underscore user, where we can fetch the user related details. Okay, so let's check how we can use glide user in our client script. Okay, So let's move further and see. I will take an example of onload for using glide user class. Okay. So let's take example of onload client script and we can see how we can use glide user class and fetch current logged in user first name, last name, full name and username. Okay, so let's try to find client script for glide user class. Okay, so let's select incident table here. Okay, and let's just remove this and we will use it as onload client script. Okay, so what I will use is like I will do an alert for g underscore form dot not g underscore user dot. Okay, we can see we have first name. Okay, so this is our script which I have written. I have written an alert for guser dot first name, guser dot last name, guser dot username, guser dot get full name. Okay, now let's try to save this client script and see how it looks in our form. So let me try to reload this form and see what happens. As you can see, my username is, I will show you what my username is, system administrator. Okay, so here you can see, let me try to reload again. So system administrator is the full name for my current user. So this is the first name, this is the last name, this is the username. Okay, this is the full name. Okay, so this way we can use glide user class as part of client script. Okay, so that's all about client script for ServiceNow. And what is UI policy? UI policy scripts use the client-side API to execute script logic based on whether the UI policy condition tests true or false. Use UI policy scripts to create complex conditional checks or to take actions rather than setting field attributes like mandatory, read-only or visible. So what behavior does UI policy provides? It defines the behavior and visibility of fields on a form like mandatory, visible, read-only. So condition must be true for it to be executed and it executes after client script. Okay, why it is like? Because client script and UI policy both are executed on client side, that is on web browser. Okay, here you can see there is a baseline incident form which is displayed here, and after displaying the form, UI policy executes. Number is read only, configuration item is mandatory, priority is not visible. As you can see, number is not read only here, but it is read only here. Configuration item is not mandatory, but here it is a mandatory field. Okay, and here you can see priority is visible, but here it is not visible. Okay, these things can be done using UI policy. Okay, so let's move further and see what is UI policy scripting. So we can write a script complex conditions and execute advanced behavior in UI policy, such as show hide sections, remove, add, change, validate data in fields, use the power of JavaScript as part of UI policy. Okay, so next, UI policy execution. So how UI policy executes? So trigger specifies when to execute UI policy actions or scripts. Okay, every field in the record can be evaluated even if it is not visible on the form. Okay, UI policy do not have a name field. We are using a short description field as a pseudo name. Not all UI policies require scripting. Okay, so let's move further and see UI policy trigger when to apply section. So UI policies execute based on evaluation of conditions. Build conditions with the condition builder rather than scripting for better performance. If left blank, the UI policy logic always executes when the form loads. Okay. As you can see here, when to apply condition, when to apply tab, we are having a condition builder here, and we can see some condition is applied. Assignment group is network, state is one of new or in progress. Okay, and here you can see global checkbox, apply the UI policy action when the form is loaded. When the user changes on the form, we can check this as well. Reverse the effect of UI policy actions when the condition evaluates to false, reverse if false. So this is also used very frequently, UI policy. Okay, so let's move further and see on scripting tab what we can do in scripting tab. So if run script is selected, we can write a script to be executed on certain conditions which evaluate to true, and as well as we can define the code what has to be executed when the client script is returning false. Okay, so here is the example how it is displayed here. You can see execute if true, we have written a lines of code, and if it execute false, we have written some another line of code. Okay, so this is interesting, right? So let's move further and see what data you can see in a UI policy. So local variables declared in a script, predefined client-side global variables such as g underscore form, g underscore user, g underscore scratchpad, which will be used after display business rule. Okay, so I will show this demo of g underscore scratchpad when our demo for server side script completes. Okay, now let's see what is the difference between client script versus UI policies. So we can see here execute on form load. So client script and the UI policy both execute on form load. Okay, execute on form save submit update. So this happens only in client script, not in UI policy. Okay, execute on form field value change. So this happens both in client script and as well as in UI policy. Okay, have access to a field's prior value. So we are having like old value can be accessed using client script. Execute on list field value change. So this also happens only in client script, not in UI policy. Execute after client script. UI policy is definitely executed after client script. Require scripting. Yeah, in client script it requires scripting, but in UI policy we can use both, like scripting and as well as configuration change. Okay, so let's move further and see what is the UI policy best practice. Okay, so we can see here use UI policies very less as possible to avoid long page load times. Okay, because UI policy is working when the form is loaded, so try to keep as low as UI policies on a single form. Okay, use the short description field to name the UI policy. Add the description field to the form to thoroughly document the UI policy. Set on load to false if you do not need to execute on page load. Apply conditions using the condition builder whenever it is possible. Okay, and comment your scripts. This is very necessary when we write any kind of script as part of UI policy. Okay, so this is all about UI policy. What all things we will be covering today in our session is like UI policy examples with demo, UI policy script execution, UI policy actions to perform activities, UI policy executions, UI policy triggers, and demo for UI policy in brief. So I will give you 3-4 example for executing UI policy in ServiceNow system. Okay, so let's move to our ServiceNow instance and explain you how we can use UI policy in the system. Okay, so let's move further. As you can see, we are onto the ServiceNow system in personal developer instance. Okay, so now let's try to explain what is UI policy and how we can create it and how configuration form looks, and how we can create UI policy for certain examples. Okay, so let's move. So UI policies, what is UI policies? UI policies dynamically change the behavior of information on a form and control custom process flows for tasks. For example, you can use UI policies to make the number field on a form read only, make the short description field mandatory, and hide other fields. So basic UI policies do not require any scripting. However, for more advanced options, we can use the run scripts option. I will show in later. So we can also use client script to perform all of these actions, but for faster load times, we are using UI policies whenever it is required. Okay. So now let's see how we can redirect to our UI policy. As you can see, there are multiple options coming here, so we have to look for system UI policies. Okay, so let's click here and see, and here we can see there are a lot of UI policies which are created out of the box in the system. So there are thousands of UI policies which is already created on various tables. So let's move and see how we can create UI policies. So we can see the new button is visible under UI policies list. So let's try to click on new and see what are all options are available. So we can see there are multiple options like there is a table, short description, active flag, application, and we have multiple options here. So we will explain one by one what all these fields are of. So this is a table field where we can select any table, and this is the application, so it is already selected as global. Okay, and the short description, we can define what UI policy does in short. Okay, and we can see there is a section when to apply an script. So let's talk about when to apply. So when to apply, there is a condition, so we can add the condition as per the table selected here. Okay, and again the UI policy applies to all form views, otherwise UI policy is view specific, so this is set as global. So we can apply the UI policy when a form is loaded and when the user value changes on the form. So for onload it is already marked as checked, and reverse if false. If suppose we are executing any UI policy conditions as false, so this UI policy will be executing opposite like what it is configured. Okay, so what inherit means, the it is the option for specifying whether the extended tables inherit this UI policy or not. Okay, so now let's move further and see what a script section contains. So in a script section, suppose we have to create a script for this UI policy, so we have to simply select the run script option. So we can see we are having options run a script in UI type, so we can select our UI type all mobile service portal desktop, and we can write our script whenever the UI policy condition is returning true, and whenever the condition is returning false, we can define a script for that too as well. Okay, so now what I will do is like I will try to create UI policy. And one more thing, before creating UI policy, we have UI policy actions. What those UI policy action does is like, first of all, we have to like create for setting field as mandatory, or setting field as visible, or setting field as read only. So these all actions will be taken as part of UI policy actions. Okay, so let's try to create a new UI policy. Okay, so there is an example for creating UI policy. Suppose we are making a close note field mandatory, and we are hiding some fields and then making some fields read only as well. So we will try to create a UI policy on incident table when incident state is resolved. Okay, so let's try to select table here. So yeah, so make field action for this UI policy. Okay, so I have already selected incident table and you can see the conditions field is enabled. So we can select the condition here and we can select the state as, so suppose state is resolved. Okay, yeah, so that's fine. State is resolved and we will try to save this record. So we can see that we have already created a UI policy for incident table. So now what I will do is like I will redirect to our incident form and see what field can be hidden. So let me try to open any new incident. Okay, so let's try to just disable this client script which is enabled. Okay, so let me just make a field in a UI policy in a, making a client script inactive. So now let's redirect back to our incident form. So we can see all the alerts has been gone. So now what I will do is like as soon as state is set to resolve, I will set the service as mandatory and category as read only. Okay. So what I will do is like I will click on UI policy actions with new button and you can see the table is already selected and UI policy name is already selected and we are having 4 actions in UI policy: mandatory, visible, read only and clearing the field value. Okay, so let's try and find, suppose on state to resolve I will make category as read only first. So where is our category, yeah. So what I will do is like I will make this field read only. Okay, and submit it. Okay, so now let's redirect to our UI policy which we have created. As you can see, we have already created our UI policy with the category field. Okay, so now let's try to reload this form and check whether the category is going to read only or not. So I will change state to resolved. Okay, as soon as I have selected state as resolved, the category field is set to read only. Now what I will do is like on state as resolved, I will do uh, service, oh sorry, subcategory as mandatory and service hidden. So let me try to create another action for subcategory. I will set subcategory as mandatory, subcategory as mandatory true. Okay, subcategory will be mandatory and service will be hidden. So let me try to create UI policy action for same. I will hide service, set visible false. So I will hide it. Now we will see how this UI policy will be executing. So there are three actions which is added right now. So let's see how it executes. Now you can see where we have category, editable, subcategory, non-mandatory, and service is visible. So now as soon as I will click on resolve, so you can see the category is set as read only and subcategory is set as mandatory, and service field has been hidden from the form. Okay. So same way we can create like we can clear the value for certain fields. Suppose I will try to clear the value for description field. So I will create one more UI policy action here and see how it executes. So I will select the description here. So this is the description field and I will do the clear value for this description field. Okay. So now let's try to execute our UI policy on incident form again. Okay. So now let's try to set as resolved. So you can see description field, it is empty now. We have cleared the value for this field. Okay. So we have seen how our UI policy actions has been executed based on certain conditions. Okay. So we have options for run script as well. So we will see how we can use run script. Okay. So suppose we are having a state is resolved and we will try to execute our script as well. So what I will do is like gform dot set value. So we are having a field short description. So we will set true condition. Okay. Same script we will just copy and paste here, and I will just change the text as false condition. So I will try to save this UI policy record again. Now let's move again back to our incident form and see what happened here. See, the UI policy is executed on load as well. So you can see our state is new in true condition, but state is new, so false condition has been executed. So let me try to click on resolve. So our all actions get performed. So this is a true condition on short description, it is populated. Okay. So now this way we have used UI policy in vast with examples. So this is interesting feature because so as to increase some interactive for certain forms. So UI policy is very good to use instead of client script whenever it is required. Okay. So this is all about UI policy. And see what is catalog client scripts. So catalog client script can add dynamic effects and validations to forms. Script can apply to catalog items as well as for variable sets, which allow administrator to use the same functionality that is available on other forms. So we can use client scripts for get or set variables, hide or display variables, make variables mandatory or not, validate form submission, add something to cart, order something immediately. Okay, so now you can see with the help of example we are using a group. Whenever we are checking as a group field, we are seeing three fields has been mandatory. right? So we are selecting a group field, category manager is mandatory. So this we are going to use with the help of catalog client script. Okay, so now let's see how our catalog client script executes for catalog items or variable set. So we can trigger catalog client script based on catalog item or variable sets. Okay, so suppose this is an example for on change client script where we are selecting any group and we are displaying multiple fields. Okay, and this is the script section where we can execute our scripts. Okay, so let's move further and see what is catalog UI policy. So catalog UI policy also manages the behavior of catalog items, and as well as it is applied to a variable set and catalog items as well. Okay, so we can see how we can use our condition builder on catalog UI policy, and you can see whenever we are selecting a replacement for a stolen broken iPhone, so yes is selected and this original phone number field is mandatory. So let's see how this is implemented in catalog UI policy. Now we can see this is a condition builder where we can define a condition like replacement is yes, and then we can set the catalog UI policy actions like the field name and mandatory as true. So this is a very simple way. Like this also happens in catalog client script, but here we can use condition builder and UI policy actions without writing any kind of scripts. Okay, so we have already seen like catalog client script and catalog UI policies can also be applied to variable sets, and it will be executing every time whenever this variable set is used. Okay, so suppose this variable set is used in 5 to 10 catalog items, so whatever catalog UI policies and catalog client scripts is included in this variable set, all will be applied to all the catalog items. Both catalog item variables and variable set variables are available to the catalog client scripts and catalog UI policies, and it will allow you to manage the behavior of any variable at the catalog item level. Suppose we are using some variable set, and then we can access that variable at catalog item level. Okay, so let's move ahead and see what data we can see in catalog client script and catalog UI policies. So we can define local variables in a script, like we can declare local variables in a script, and we can use predefined client side global variables such as g_form and g_user. So now we can see how we can locate our catalog item elements. So we can redirect to our catalog items, and under related lists we can see variables, variable set, catalog UI policies, catalog client script, and many more things which will be used as part of catalog items. Okay, so this is the place where we can track our UI policies and catalog client scripts. Now we should see the good practice, what we should use. So we should use catalog UI policy instead of catalog client script if you can, for faster load times and easier maintenance. Suppose like whenever it is required to use UI policy, use it. It's not required to use catalog client script due to the performance issues. If you create the UI policy, then performance will be nice, but if same thing you are implementing on my alert box. Okay, now what I will do is like this is like getting the value. Now suppose Alright, then we can see we have applies to catalog item, variable set. These are all things we can see under catalog items. So we can see here we are having forms, and under that we have related list, and we can see catalog UI policy and catalog client script. This will be executing on particular catalog item only if it is created for variables, and if any variable set is there and catalog UI policies and catalog client scripts is created for variable set, then wherever the variable set is called, at that place you will be seeing that catalog UI policies and catalog client script will be executing. So this is all about catalog client script and catalog UI policies. So let's proceed and see what is business rules. What is a business rule? It is a type of JavaScript that runs when a table is queried, when a record is inserted, updated, deleted, or displayed. It can be used to change values in fields when any certain conditions are met. It executes on server side, which usually is faster. So let's move further and see how our business rule executes. So for executing our business rule, it requires what table it will be executed. Like here you can see we have defined the table as a problem, and when it execute, like when to run, so we can run on insert, update, delete, or query. So right now it is selected as update. So this is just an example, like we can select when to run. Alright, then we can see further how it triggers or how we can add the conditions under when to run. So we can see we can define some criteria for execution of business rule logic, and we can select on what basis we have to execute this business rule. Suppose there is a problem filter conditions where we can see problem state is one of resolved or closed, and there is one more conditions like role. We can define the role on which this business rule will be executing. Alright, then we can move further and see how business rule actually executes. So first, the business rule user will be querying the database or any table. So the query which will be done, it is a query business rule, like it will be running when we are querying any table in the database. So that's why it will fetch before the database provides us the data. And when the database query is done, so after that display business rule runs whenever we get some data from server side. So that means we are displaying the data from database. And then after the form submission, we can see there is a before business rule. So it runs after form submission and before database update. So that is before business rule. And we can see when a database update happens, after that we run after business rules, and after we run async business rule. So we will see in detail how these types of business rule executes actually, and I will tell you how this works. So let's move ahead and see how these types of business rule actually runs. So we can see when business rule runs on before query, like whenever we are requesting any data from the database. So it will be executing when a query is sent to the database. So it will be displayed all the data whatever we are requesting from the database. Suppose we have to request same kind of incident for particular location, or like you can see the example, we can prevent users from one location seeing CIs from another. So this could be the one example, and there could be many more. So before query business rule queries the database. So this is all about before query, and let's move further and see how display rule works. So display rule will work after the data is read from the database and before the form is presented to the user. So yeah, because we can see if we are fetching any data from server side, so we can get those data under before query rules, and primary purpose is to populate the g_scratchpad global object, which will be used inside onload client script to fetch the database values or server side values, whatever we are requesting from client side to be executed while we are getting the data from the database. Alright, so it will execute and populates the g_scratchpad object using display business rule. And when the form submission happens, so we have before rules, so we can see how it executes. So before business rule executes after the form submission and before the record is updated in the database. Suppose we have to populate closed by with the name of currently logged in user whenever we are closing any ticket or incident. So we can populate this closed by with the name. So here we have seen example like how we can use our before query business rule. So we can see after business rule how it executes. So let's see how after business rule runs. So it executes after form submission and when the record is updated in the database. So there is an example like we can cascade changes made to the approval field of a service catalog request to the requested items attached to that request. So whatever changes has been done as part of request approval field, so same will be added on relevant requested items. So this executes under after business rule. So let's see how async business rule runs. So it executes after records are inserted, modified or queried. So it will run asynchronously as scheduled jobs. So example, we can see we can notify subscribers when CIs are affected by an incident or any SLA calculations, and there can be many more calculations. That is like if suppose there are more complex calculations happening on server execution, then at that point of time we can use async business rules so that our existing work is not impacted on the current form. Alright, so this is all about execution of async business rule. So let's move further and see what business rule trigger actions does. So we can see we are having a action tab where we can see what to execute and what things we can do here. So suppose we can set the field values and we can set the message. If any message has to be displayed on certain records, so script is not required, we can just set the message here, and as well as we can set the value without writing any script using set values options here. Alright, so let's move and see what we can do under advanced tab. So advanced tab is activated whenever we have to write any complex conditions or any action scripts which has to be written. So we can use this advanced conditions checkbox, and then we can define certain conditions and script here, and we can execute whatever is required as part of certain project. Alright, so let's move further and see what is server side global variables and what data can you see in business rules. So we can see like local variables declared in a script, and we can see predefined server side global variables like current, previous, g underscore scratchpad. Display business rules only works in conjunction with a client side script. So you can see below how g scratchpad is used, and we can see how global variables dot walking works. So it allows direct access to fields for related records like reference records. Suppose we have a field caller in incident table, so we can get the reference, like you can see here current dot caller id dot department dot name. So we can fetch the caller department name on current table using global variables. So as an example, you can see object dot reference object name dot field of interest. So this is the syntax, and here is the example current dot caller id dot department dot name. So we can see here so how it works. We can see incident table is provided here, and the caller id we have sysid, and it is dot walking to this particular sysid, and it is again dot walking to the name which is sales. So we can get the name of current department name of current caller of incident. So this is the way how it works as a dot walking in server side script. So we can see global variables automatically inserting the dot walking path whenever we write any script. So you can see in below example, we can see many dot walking features that can be utilized under business rules. so that it's very easier to find out what dot walking can be possible on certain forms. So you can see here, and this is automatically inserted whenever we select any table on this business rule. So according to that, whatever fields are available to do dot walking, so we can use it here. So let's move further and see how we can debug our business rules. So for debugging our business rule, we have certain methods like glide system logging methods, debug business rules module, script debugger, script tracer, console debugger, right? So we have multiple ServiceNow server-side debugging tools, so we can use those. And JavaScript debugger is try-catch, which is like very popular on in terms of JavaScript, but in ServiceNow we can use these methods, which is very easy to find, like where our business rule is stuck and what it is doing. So let's move further and see what are all those glide system logging methods. So we can see how we can send the debugging information to the system log. So suppose we can use gs.info, which is used for informational events such as message that will be displayed whenever we are performing certain things. And gs.log, this always logs a message when it is used in a global scope. So gs.error, it is used for critical errors that are coming while execution. So gs.warning is used for logging when there might be some issue. And gs.debug, it will occur in a debug mode or when a session debug for that application is enabled. So debugging will start on that particular business rule. And we can see how we can display the debugging information on our form where we are executing our business rule. So we have gs.addInfo message, gs.addError message, and gs. Some method name like whatever is available for our use in terms of business rule, and we can use those as well. So whatever methods are available we can use under business rule to send some information to the form. So we can see like how debugging works here. So debugging server side JavaScript. So we can see we have our select script debugger under business rule scripting section. So you can see this, we can click on this and it will open our another browser window along with the script tracer, and we can see the session log as well when we click on those. And as well as we can click on system diagnostics and we can click on script debugger here on the navigator, and we can do it from filter navigator as well. So both ways we can do our script debugging. So for business rule demo, so let us proceed and see how we can use business rules. So today we are going to see how we can create and use all types of business rules. So these are the types of business rules which I will cover in today's session: display business rule, query business rule, before business rule, after business rule, async business rule. Alright, so let's move and see how we can create those types of business rules. As you can see, we are on to our personal developer instance, and now let's proceed further and see how we can create those types of business rules. As in previous videos, I have already mentioned what is business rule and what are all types of business rule, how we can use it. But that was theory part. Today I will be showing how we can create and utilize those business rule features. Alright, so what is business rule? JavaScript that runs when a table is queried, when a table is displayed, inserted, updated or deleted. It can be used to change values in fields when certain conditions are met. It executes on server side. So now let's see how we can use display business rules. So I have clicked on business rules, and let me just pick incident table here.
can see our incident form is loaded now. So let me try to create business rule on this table. Configure business rules. Okay, let me add the name display business rules demo. So I have given the name here, and now we have when to run and actions right now. Alright, so let us try to see. Okay, we don't have what type of business rule it is required to create. So we have to click on advanced button here. As soon as we will click on advanced, we will get when to use our business rule. You can see when to run, when is started displaying, and we can see there are 4 options here: before, after, async, display. And here we are having when we have to run: insert, update, delete, query. Right, and there is filter condition as well. We can define our conditions here, on what conditions business rule will run, and we can provide role condition as well to run on BR. Alright, and this is the action. We can define action here. If any script is not required, we can use this action tab to just set the values for particular requirements. And on advanced section, we can continue to write our scripts, whichever is not possible using actions tab. So we can write our scripts here. And now when to run. So currently I would be running display business rule. Okay, we don't, because display business rule will run before the form is presented to the user. Right, so let me just add some conditions here. Let me see what can I do here. Suppose I will populate this field, testing the data into this truncate field on this conditions, like a short description. Alright, so let me just add the condition here. So it will contains this text. And now what I will do is I will set this field, truncate field. Some random data, execute display business rules. Now I will save it without using our scripted. And now we will see how this will execute. So I will just reload this form. And you will see based on this data, this truncate field is populated. Execute display business rules. So we can use display business rule this way. Or if suppose someone has to write any script here, so not actions. So you can do one more thing. There is an advanced section and you can write your scripts here. Suppose let us try to create one script as well. So suppose let me create one field here. So I have clicked on form design. I will select field type as a string only. So I will give this a name. Callers manager. And one more string field I will add here. this will be callers department. So let me try to save this form. And now let me try to reload our original form. And you can see two fields are populated here. And now let me try to implement how we can use with the help of scripts. So I will write here g_scratchpad dot. So I will write callers manager current dot caller id dot manager dot get display value. Alright, now same way I will use this for department 1. So let me try and see what is the field name of that department. Department, and this is manager. So I have generated this script g_scratchpad.callersManager equal to current.callerID.manager dot get display value, and similar way regarding department current.callerID.department dot get display value. So let me just correct the spelling here. And one more thing I have to tell you, this display business rule while using a scratchpad will use in conjunction with onload client script. This scratchpad will be called under client script, onload client script. Alright, so let's proceed and see how we can call this in client script. Let me create one client script here. Call display business rule. gform dot set value. So let me see what is the database name of these two fields. Use string _3. This will be 4. And now I will just use these scratchpad object which we have created, and this can be utilized in onload client script. Alright, so let me try to save this and see how our execution happens. So let me reload this form. And now you can see callers department sales is populated here with the use of this scratchpad thing. And why this manager is not populated? Because this user is not having its manager. Manager is empty. So let me try to add here manager, and we will try to reload the form again. So let me add some manager here, system administrator. Let me try to save this record. And now we will reload our client script again. And you can see our callers manager, callers department is populated with the help of this business rule, display business rule, right? So this is the way how we can utilize display business rule. Alright, so now let's move and see another example. So that is query business rule. So let's try to create a query business rule. How we can create it? Similar way we can create like configure business rules. And now we will click on new. So I will use query business rules. So query business rule scenario, I will tell you how I can do it. So this is the query business rule. Okay. So it will be executed before query. And like what use case I will take today is like whatever logged in user is, suppose logged in user is this system administrator. So whatever location is being set for this user, for that location only I will be seeing all the incident, right? So let me just see whether we are having location field under this user or not. So we have location field here. Alright, let me change it to San Diego and let me update it. Okay, so it is updated to San Diego. Now we will only be seeing San Diego location data because user's location is San Diego. So let us try to see how we can implement this type of business rule using before query. So we have selected when to before and query, and actions tab we will not use. We will utilize advanced section of this business rule. So we will write some code here. Suppose I will fetch first logged in user. Logged in user gs dot get user ID. And now what we will do is like we will create a glide, we will do a glide record to user table. And now I will add glide record here. User dot add query. And now query I will be doing with sysid, whatever logged in user is. So we will find the logged in user's location basically. So that's why we are checking with sysid, because this will logged in user here will return sysid of that user, logged in user. If user dot next and now what we will add here, we will just add current dot add query, and we will set location user dot location. And let me format this code and let us now try to execute. Let me first save this business rule. And now this business rule is saved. Now let us move to our incident list. And now you will be able to see only incident locations or incident only with location San Diego, because current logged in user is San Diego. And you can see in a script, no code is like static. It is running dynamic. So I have fetched the logged in user here and I have compared with user table, and from user table I have fetched the location, and on current incident table, I am doing a query with location. Like location is whatever logged in user is. So you will see only this type of incident is visible whose location is San Diego, right? So now let's move to our another type of business rules. So next type of business rule I will be showing you is before business rule. So let me try to create this business rule. Alright, so for implementing those before business rule, so I will create one field here. So let me try to create one field. I will create one field here, resolved by. Because resolved by is already there, so let me add here incident resolved by. Alright, so let me save this. And now let us reload this form and we will be seeing incident resolved by field. And now before business rule, so let us try to create before business rule first. Configure business rules and we will click on new. Execute before business rules. And let me click on advanced section and we will create a before BR here. So I will just select insert or update, before insert or update, and actions will not use. Under advanced section we will write some conditions here. So we can write condition here as well. Suppose we are setting resolved by, so if state changes to resolved, so we will we have written a condition state changes to resolved. And now under advanced section what we will do is like we will just write our code to set this resolved by status from current logged in user. So current dot, so let us check what is the database field name. So u_string_5. Alright, so I will just populate this. We can see if we have, we have get user display name. Alright, so let us try to save this. And now we have a condition state to resolved. So let me reload this form and see. So currently this state is in progress and this incident resolved by is not populated as well. So let me try to resolve this incident and save this record. Alright, so as soon as I will save this record, you will see incident resolved by system administrator. So current logged in user is system administrator, right? So this system administrator is populated under this incident while executing before business rule, right? So let me execute another type of business rule is like after business rule. So let me try to create after business rule. After business rule will run when any record is saved into the system. After that, business rule will execute. When a record is committed to database, after that, this BR will get executed. So let me try to create after business rule. So one example I have to take here is like we will copy our work notes from request item table to catalog task table. So we will use here requested item table. We have multiple requested item record here and I have picked one of them. So whatever work notes I will add under this RITM section, those will be populated under catalog tasks table. So let us try to create business rule for this. So let me click on new. I have added execute after business rule and under advanced section I will select after business rule. So when I will execute it after update. So when to run will be like additional comments or work notes. Yeah. Work notes changes. Yeah. So I have added the condition when work notes will get changed, then only we will execute and pass our work notes instructions to our relevant catalog task, right? So under advanced section, we will create a glide record. So condition will be there like a parent current dot get unique value, and now I will query the table, and now I will write while gr dot task dot next. And now what I will do is like I will just set work notes for this task dot work notes. Current dot work notes dot get journal get journal entry, and I will add 1. So we have to fetch the latest work notes from RITM, then we will use get journal entry 1. And now let us update those all catalog tasks. So let me try to save it. And now we will see how we can execute this after business rule. So this is the RITM, and you can see there are 4 catalog tasks. So let me try to update something here. Send work notes to tasks. Okay, and I will post this. Okay, so work notes is added to this RITM. Now we will check for these tasks, what happened on these tasks. And now you can see send work notes to task. We have got a log under catalog tasks, and this log will be for all the catalog tasks. You will see this log, this task, this task, this task. And here we can execute after business rule by using this way. Alright, so now let us move and see how we can utilize async business rule. Alright, so let me open our incident form again. So let me open any of the incident form, and we will just try to create problem on what condition. Yeah, suppose I will take example for on hold. Okay, and this awaiting problem. Alright, so now let me open business rule. Yeah, so now we will execute async business rules. Execute async business rules. So async business rule we can execute at the time after any record is updated to database, and if we don't require those kind of information instantly to other form, then we can use async business rule. And if suppose we are executing anything like after business rule or async business rule, so suppose if that information is not required instantly, then prefer to use async business rule. Alright, so let us try to execute our async business rule. So now we will click here async, and on update we will execute this BR, and I will add a condition, state is on hold. And on hold reason I will select like changes to awaiting problem. So this is the condition I have added. And now for what purpose we are doing is like whenever this awaiting state is on hold and on hold reason changes to awaiting problem, so I will create a problem record here. Alright, so let me try to create a problem record. So where PRB task new glide record problem. Alright, we will do initialize. So we will create a problem record whenever this condition is fulfilled, and we will suppose set short description equal to, so I will write as execute async business rule. Alright, so it will be easy to search for this record. Let me try to execute and see how we can utilize and how it is executed, right? Alright, so let us try to execute this for one of the incident. So I have opened one of the incident and I have clicked on awaiting problem and I will save it. Alright, now I have saved this record. Now we will check whether our problem record is created with our short description. Alright, so let us check the problem record. As you can see, we are having this execute async business rule problem record created. Right, so this information is not required instantly. That's why this is executed as part of asynchronous business rule. Alright, so these all type of business rule I have explained you. So hope everything is clear as part of business rule section. Alright, these business rules are very important whenever we are working on the projects which is assigned to us. Alright, so this business rule will be taking a major role of implementing any kind of validations or customizations or script execution. So many times you will use these business rules only. So yeah, this is all about business rules. So please provide your comment if you have any questions, doubts or queries related to this session. For more information, please visit the description section under this video. Thanks for hearing me out. Stay tuned for more videos. Please do like, share and subscribe to my channel LearnIT.